Which movies do you think are straight up propaganda? I feel like the internship was a way for Google to advertise their workspace and job environment lol. Recently left Google and working there was nothing like the movie. It definitely was quirky. But as the original leadership retired and new execs were brought it definitely became just another corporation. I'd still probably go back if the right opportunity came around with the right pay. Dated someone who worked for them for a bit. Excitedly asked him about the campus and he basically said yeah. They give us cool speep like nap pods. But do you know how many times I got to use one? 0. The cafeteria seemed pretty sweet though. I worked for a company that had dozens of boxes and PlayStations you could use on your break. You had to print out a health and safety form. Get it signed by your manager. Then countersigned by HR before you could use the controller in case you hurt your wrists. By the time you'd done this, your lunch break was over and you needed a new form for the following day. The whole scheme was so when clients came around they could say all this stuff is for employees. Technically they weren't lying and the equipment always looked brand new. I worked for a company that had a football table and a DI arcade machine with pretty much every arcade game made before 1995 on it. Every day at noon accordion music would begin coming out of the break room and that would mean it was time for the daily football tourney. It was an interesting place to work. Never did get around to using the arcade though. Too busy with football. Oh man. There was a documentary a while back called What the Bleep Do We Know? That advertised itself as a science documentary exploring the weirdness of quantum physics. It sounded cool and I actually went and saw it in the theater. Turns out it was a flat out scam promoting the ideas of a new age cult called the Ramtha School of Enlightenment. A handful of physicists were duped into appearing and heavily edited to appear as though they agreed with the cult's message. I've never felt so cheated leaving a theater. The director of that film went on to be a central figure in the NXIVM cult, the one where Alison Mack was branding people. This film came to mind for me on this question too. The documentary paints that guy out to be so sympathetic. But having him be an influencer from one cult to the next is not a good look. TBH, I feel like a lot of the people in that doc just made it to make themselves look good when they were so heavily involved in shady ass speep. Most musical biopics seem like an attempt to rewrite history just the way the movie makers wanted to be remembered. Very strange. Which is why Walk Hard remains legendary. And you never once paid for drugs. Not once. You don't want no part of this speep. Dewey. Rambo III hanging out with Osama bin Laden and other anti-Soviet child freedom fighters in Afghanistan. Funny how the Rambo movies went from messed up Vietnam vet goes psycho because war is hell to let's shoot the commies. The second one really bridges the two themes nicely. That movie Battleship was basically one long advert for the Navy. I thought it was one long advert for the board game Battleship. And it wasn't even accurate to the game. I dunno. I thought the enemy projectiles pausing for a moment before getting pegged into the ship was cute. Night at the museum. Nice try. Big museum. LMFAO. Dude, when that movie came out I was working at the Museum of Science and we had an overnight program where we would teach kids all about the exhibits and assign them to different exhibits to sleep in with staff and guardians of course, and after that movie, that program became so popular. We had what seemed like a full daytime crowd in the overnight for months after lol. I actually really wanted to stage a magic act to make the T-Rex disappear and tell them kids to look for clues, broke branches. Maybe meet ETC to find out where he was. It would be a circle hunt leading us back to the exhibit where the Rex would have returned, but I couldn't get approval from the higher ups lol. Your bosses are failing to recognize your talent. That's a kick-ass idea. I dunno. I wouldn't want to move the T-Rex bones any more than I absolutely had to. For conservation and laziness concerns. The ones on display are usually just casts. But still. I'm thinking you don't physically move them. Just, like, paint the scene without him in it and hang the painting. Then remove the painting when they get back. Keep the lights low so they can't easily notice the lack of parallax. Pretty much always casts, I think, since the actual fossils are generally worth way too much to risk like that. But even just a cast and mounting is a hefty job. My uncle used to do big educational display fit-outs for museums apparently. Though last time I saw him in person was when he was just getting into the fossil casting business. Well, they might use the actual fossils when it's a display of the fossils still in the surrounding rock kept under glass. Top Gun. Blatant propaganda. I was 16 when it came out. I knew so many guys who joined the Navy thinking they'd be Goose or Mav. They were not. They literally had Navy recruiting stations set up at theaters when it premiered. Then they joined the Navy and ended up cleaning toilets. Reefer madness. But the musical Reefer Madness is hilarious. Birth of a Nation was. I watched this after I got my wisdom teeth out since I had a lot of time and it just was insane. Did I misremember? Or did a white chick really flip out and run off a cliff when a black dude proposed to her? And then the Klan forms to lynch him? Zero Dark 30 and Argo were both made with very high levels of involvement by the CIA. Canadians were way more involved than Argo outlined. Like way more. This was basically washed out. Wreck-It Ralph 2. Rafe breaks my peeping sanity. That movie should be called Disney. Look how much Speep we bought. Watch out for Space Jam 2. It was 200 times worse. Space Jam 2 is literally a commercial for every Warner Brothers property. Battlefield Earth. It was based off the book written by the nut job who made up Scientology. Not nut job. Scam artist. To be fair, he was both. Waiting for Kim Jong-un to say the interview on his throwaway. It's an open secret that he's the one North Korean account on Steam. So it's not that much of a stretch to imagine him on Reddit. Well, when I finished watching the Lego movie in theaters I realized that I had watched a 2-hour commercial. I wasn't mad about it. Even as a Christian I'd say the movie God's Not Dead. It's such an over-exaggeration of Christian life and it demonizes everyone who isn't a Christian, especially atheists and people of different beliefs. It's a bad film and should be offensive to everyone including Christians. I think my favorite part was the Muslim girl who wears hijab but short sleeves and her extremist dad is somehow fine with this. The Michael Bay Transformer movies. Think about it. Weird evil robot aliens attack Earth and the American military helps fight them off and save the day. I thought the U.S. military did allow their use of jets on the condition that they always appear victorious or powerful. Or something to that effect. If you watch the commentary on the original Transformers movie, whenever you see the military in that movie, the actual military, not the actors who play soldiers, they weren't acting. Michael Bay basically told their commander what the scene was and they essentially played it off like a training exercise. Hey guys, there's a giant alien robot attacking a city. Do whatever you would do in that situation. And the movie crew just filmed the military guys doing their thing and edited that together with the scenes with the actors. Say what you want about the rest of the Transformers movies, but that first one had an incredible amount of effort put into making it. If you've never seen the behind the scenes documentaries on the 2-disc special edition DVD, you are missing out. There is virtually no CGI in that movie other than the robots. That behind the scenes has one of my favorite quotes ever, where Bay is explaining that for the Scorponok in the desert scene he had the actors running away from actual explosions. and just told them over and over to run as fast as they could so they wouldn't get hurt. Then he plays the footage, pauses it after the first few charges have gone off and says that fear on their faces and being real like no speak Mike you just tried to blow them up LMAO undefined. This is my favorite story ever, thank you so much for sharing.